Welcome to episode 549 of the Aussie Tech Heads, recorded on the 31st of August 2017. Aussie Tech Heads is brought to you by ATH Web Hosting at athwebhosting.com.au. Servers operate on SSD drives. Immediate activation, SSL certificates, Aussie support, domain registration, easy install, WordPress, Joomla and Drupal. I'm your host, Jason Oakley, and we have back again Australia's top two podcasters. I'm joined by Will Tompkinson. Hey, Will.
Hey, mate. Drupal.
It's always going to be there. Glenn loves it when we say that.
Glenn's never going to live that one down.
And, of course, Luke Isaac is with us this time. How you doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Alrighty.
Bit of a change from your regular haunt lately?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to plug anything while we're here?
Absolutely not. Like if I tell people that I'm coming on here as well, they're gonna troll you guys.
They'll explode.
No, it's good. I had the option of debating a Liberal tonight, or coming on here where I had to put in, or sitting next to Will, zero effort into personal appearance or video editing. So I
zero
chose
effort's good. That's why Will likes doing this podcast, right? He just talks crap and then he goes, okay, you produce it and stick it up on the site. I'm going to...
Pretty much. It's easier that way.
Oh, yeah. We better be careful. Poor Will.
Poor Will.
Poor Will.
I'm not held to anything. I'm not held accountable for anything I say, so, you know.
He's drunk on kombucha.
Anything that Will Tompkinson said is not enforced.
Yeah, that's it. We don't agree with or support.
Not endorsed by Aussie Tech Heads at all. He just says stuff.
Unless there's a sponsor, then we fully endorse it.
Yeah. That's right. Did you have any news stories you wanted to start off with, or?
I suppose, as soon as we're going that way. It's been interesting. There's a million news stories, but there's actually very, very few that are either relevant or interesting. But let's see how we go. Speaking of irrelevant, and this just comes under one of those categories of... This just comes under the category of why and what were they smoking with this particular device when they come up with this. Storz and Bickel's Bluetooth-enabled vape.
What?
So basically, I'll read it as it says. I'm not an expert on vapes, but I have a friend who is. He spent thousands of dollars on vapes in the last 5 years and closely analysed their performance and utility. He's found some highly touted vapes are almost useless due to crippling design flaws. His favourite vapes come from a Swiss firm, Storz and Bickel. They offer family friend. Storz, S-T-O-R, stores, I guess, S-T-O-R-Z, and Bickel, B-I-C-K-E-L. They offer a family of vapes ranging from handheld to tabletop volcanoes that weigh several pounds. Manufactured, because you need that. That's like the whole room effect thing happening.
The bong of vapes.
Manufactured in Germany, the S&B vapes offer Bauhaus style from form follows function design. For this review, I'm focusing on the Bluetooth-enabled Crafty Vape, which I own. Why Bluetooth?
Why not? Because you can, right? We're going to stick Wi-Fi in it next week.
But it's more than just Bluetooth. So, okay, it's Bluetooth-enabled. You think, okay, well, why do I want that? And then it has a tiny touchscreen, and it has a larger battery, which is about $70 for the battery. With the free app that comes with it, your smartphone replaces the vape touchscreen. But why do they put... What do you want to configure in your vape anyway? Well, the microcontroller embedded in the vape, you have some choices. Set vape temp, vibrate when it reaches operating temperature, flash the lights to signify status, and a few other bits and pieces. So, and if I flick to the screen,
you can also call your mum on it.
Yeah, you can see it does things like it tells you the temperature, it tells you the battery charge level, it has a booster level, it has all this other stuff. So, it's one of those deals that, why on earth do you have Bluetooth on your vape? Well, I have it because I reckon it's a cool sell. It's one of those deals that you just have because you have.
Because you don't. That's why I've got it.
They've got all the configurable settings, like the really top-end vape, top-end e-cigs and stuff like that, controllable voltage and, how much output you really want and what your battery levels are. I get it. I just want to see one with a Bluetooth, sponsored by Beats, a Bluetooth speaker right in the bottom of it, so you can take your party on the road with you.
Part of the reason they did it is because this uses there's a lot of herbal choices out there. There's eucalyptus, chamomile, lavender, all these other things
Cannabis.
that you can do with them. But with all those other, well, it's not on the list though, so I don't know what the temperature is. But you'll see it has this. I don't know how well it's showing up, but it has this listing of temperatures for all these different things. Like eucalyptus prefers 130 degrees, and chamomile prefers 190. So I kind of understand what they're doing. They're aiming it at this versatile market, which then gives them more flexibility and allows you to preset it for this sort of stuff. But I mean, yeah, I'd buy it just because it's Bluetooth.
It's for the vape purists. I mean,
Yeah,
most
look,
people
I get
who
it.
frost the vapes, like right at the start, they just want something to replace the smoking, and their taste buds are so wrecked anyway, they don't know the difference. But you watch people who have been vaping for 2-3 years and can taste and smell again, like they're mixing berry with menthol with, you know, cream of corn, and they're just like, they mix their own thing.
Go on, cream of corn. What about him? I'm craving
Just
cream of
continue
corn.
the show while you get your can there. We'll give it a bit of a heat up.
And mushy peas.
Oh, peas, gross.
So you could make a lot of money. You could start putting out some
Interesting.
mushy peas and cream of
Actually,
corn.
if you want to see an interesting, it's kind of off. Well, it's sort of on topic, but it's kind of irrelevant. There's a guy on YouTube called Big Clive. Check him out because he makes his own vape scents and liquids and oils and stuff. And some of the combinations he comes up. He did a rum and raisin one day, which he thought was pretty cool. Then he did a Baileys and mint or something. And
if you're selling to Asia, you could sell anything.
yeah,
Toe jam and belly button lint.
I don't know if any of you guys have watched that YouTube video with that guy who made his own world's largest vape, and the thing's like, it's like massive, and it's like a steam train. He just puts out this massive cloud that fills the room in one go.
The B-double battery for one toe.
It'd be worth it though.
Yeah.
No.
You know, it's good when the whole room gets stoned at the same time. It's just like,
Well, Dad's vaping, and it's the way he's got that thing dialed up, and the amount of throat hit that thing has. I am coughing.
yeah, but he's also got the first one before safety standards were a thing.
Well, he's got one that looks like Doctor Who's, well, probably the first Doctor's sonic screwdriver. If the first Doctor had a sonic screwdriver, it would look like that.
It's pretty nuts.
Yeah, and then he's got this other one, and like the hole in the opening is like a 5-cent piece, and like the amount of pure steam that comes off this thing.
Actually, now you hook it up to an air compressor and just fire it, just force feed it through your throat.
Oh,
dear.
I swear he's getting 10 times more nicotine now than he was when he was smoking analogs.
And that's what matters. Oh, the old-fashioned stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
You're so
Just
last century, dude.
Call me old-fashioned, yeah. Call me old-fashioned.
There he is. You're looking a bit different there, Will.
Look at the entire pack's just full of
Looks
18650
like a
cells.
You could probably get some air if you kept it on
You could run the average. You could run the average Tesla off that for a week.
How many batteries is in that?
I think there's 48 cells, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've.
You can also
Since I've
power
seen
your
it, but
Tesla
it's-
with it if you run out of juice.
Doc Brown could have got back to 1985 if he
Watch
had
this.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Here he goes.
that.
Whoa. It's a cloud. Cumulonimbus
The entire
in the
room
house.
is now white. You can't see anything. That's the end of the video because that's all you can see.
But that was in his lungs.
Insane.
Yeah, all that water vapor was in his lungs. How will he survive?
Yeah.
I heard you've
No, I
got a
just
plant
thought that
in
was-
there. You need to go to jail.
Yeah.
No.
You're growing herbs. Quick, stop it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, dear. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting little.
A Bluetooth
Well,
enabled.
It's part of the IoT, the Internet of Things, which is starting to raise the question: why? There's so
We're
much
going to stick a web server in there
IoT.
soon.
Well, yeah, there's so much IoT enabled stuff now.
Yep.
You just look at it and go, why does my coffee cup need to know the temperature in Seattle? Like,
Your
why is that
screwdriver
relevant?
needs to be on the internet, doesn't it?
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I love technology. I love having connectability. I love having access to things from other places. It's great. But
This
really?
Allen key can tell you how many degrees you twisted around.
Now, if a tool could actually do that I would pay for.
Yeah.
Or if my 10mm spanner could pinpoint its location on Google Maps, I'd be incredibly happy.
Where's it gone now? You should just ask Cam if you want to know where your stuff's gone now.
Oh, dear.
Especially the washing powder, right?
But it is quite freaky because, I mean, on one hand, I was talking to somebody during the week about, they're talking about the resilience of the Australian people. And I'm thinking, mate, you watch what happened in Adelaide, when the power went out for 5 days.
Yeah.
People were literally homicidal and weird. And we've got like over 88% of our internet coming across one fiber optic cable from Japan. You know what I mean? You blow that thing up, and people are going to be weird. You take the power out, you stop the water for 3 days. Just do a little, just mess with people. Just mess with everything's connected to the internet, for goodness sake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where are we going to be? Where are we going to be if we lose internet? And this is one of the things that's sort of not spoken about very much when we're talking about, good old Trumbull. Yes, Trump called Turnbull Trumbull, so that's his name now. When the leader of the free world gives you a name. He basically said, oh, yeah, so if the US goes to war with North Korea, then we're right behind them the whole way, which means by proxy China. I mean, do you know how easy it would be to knock out our internet? Like that. Banking.
Yeah, because then 7 million people are trying to use one satellite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have enough problems, during peak hour on your mobile as it is.
Yep.
It would be an insane experience to lose internet. And it's so easy to forget that it was 2009, 2010, the first iPad came out. It was 2006 before the iPhone came out. All of these things are just accepted norms. But
well, I mean, it was only 2000. It was only 2000 when the internet came out for most people.
Yeah.
I
was in grade 5 and 6 using my like a really old Power Mac, searching Star Trek websites in primary school. Nobody used the internet. Yeah. That's it. And I remember, Electric Light Orchestra, Star Trek. I mean, that was basically the entirety of building GeoCities web pages in 99, 2000.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing. We were off into this brave new world that is now every second device in my house is connected to.
Yep.
I mean, I started building web pages for companies in 94, 95. And
ASIO, maybe?
No. And
using web pages, didn't I?
Well, it's exactly the same design if you go and have a look.
Yeah, I used
still runs on the same.
My first. I remember Netscape. Oh,
yep. Netscape Navigator Gold for the win.
Yeah, and when you used to, like in Windows 3.1.1, and you're able to like build websites from the browser, like that Dragon WYSIWYG, loved it.
I had a little program called Arachnophilia. I used to head and code HTML with. It was really great. I was at a place, Internet Cafe in Newcastle, and doing their websites with PaintShop Pro and stuff. It was good fun.
Yep. And I was still using like X3 Gold to copy files around.
Yep. And then X3 Bold for Windows.
Yeah, it was never the same.
No, X3 Bold was the best. All the shortcuts.
What I was getting at when I was building pages you'd know too. Well, when building pages back in 94, 95, if you got 10 hits a day, it was a good page.
Yeah. And you had a counter. You could put a counter on.
Yeah, that's right. You had a counter.
A 3-digit counter, mind you, because you never expected to go past that.
Yeah, I had a GeoCities page. It's now on oocities.com or whatever it is.
Yeah, mine didn't get copied across, unfortunately.
Oh, the amount of handles on it, because I was a big ICQ junkie, back in the and like that was the thing. I mean, some of the first celebrities that I used to talk to back and forth, like in real life, we all had. No, I wasn't a celebrity, but like everybody had before MSN Messenger ICQ.
Yep.
That number, that 47-digit number,
100045826, and I still remember it today. And it was that thing, and then MSN Messenger. It was.
Well, I was the IRC crowd. I was the
Yeah, I was
MIRC
MIRC.
crowd, so I was
Nerd.
the other side of it.
Yeah. Started with IRC, went to ICQ. I think mine was 3215987. So ICQ number.
I don't remember my ICQ, but I remember I had a program which I want to say was something similar to Pandora, but I can't remember exactly. And it was one of the first multi-purpose logins that had ICQ, had MIRC, it had my MSN or whatever it was, Twitter, not Twitter, handle.
Yeah.
It had
Yeah.
like eight different logins all in this
Trillium.
one. Trillion, that's it. Yeah, Trillion. That's right. That was brilliant.
It was.
Actually, they still make Trillion. It's still a usable
Should
thing.
do, yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this week on Old Fart Geeks.
Old Fart Geeks.
Yeah.
Well, that's that show done. We're sorted now.
We've done 2 shows in one here, Will. Both of our shows. So we'll
and
just,
they're both
pair
as
this
good
off.
as each other.
No news. When there's no news, there's no news. And we could talk about the WikiLeaks thing, but the reality is, it's just we just got another reminder today how insecure our lives really are. And if people don't know that by now, then look at WikiLeaks.org. Like a huge password dump happened as well. So everybody who's concerned about their Samsung TVs, Google accounts, what have you, just go to haveibeenpwned.com and check out whether you're being pwned. I wasn't yet, but it's gosh.
I can't believe I haven't been.
One of my Gmail account appears on 3 different pwned lists. I checked it again today.
One of the most disturbing things was when I was actually looking at the dump of Ashley Madison.
I'm not on that one.
And how many? yeah, but the amount of people I knew on there really disturbed me. Like, it really. I can't mention any names, but I mean, I'm talking about.
I certainly learned a lot more about them than I thought I knew.
Yeah. The amount.
Well, you would have if their histories appeared.
But you're talking about yeah. Well, there were a couple. There were 3 dumps. One of them was obviously all the multimedia, which I didn't bother about. But the massive Excel dump of all of the email addresses, and we're talking about government officials, respectable people that you thought were respectable, and you're thinking, how are these people actually answering to their family members? I mean, old fart geeks again. That's old news.
Yeah. But have you seen? I mean, you don't need the government to do that, because your best man will do it for you at your wedding. Have you seen that one where the best man starts his speech off at the wedding, and he, it just starts off as a normal speech, and then a couple of minutes into it, they actually they've actually hijacked this guy's browser while he wasn't looking. They've gone to his history and gone into his Pornhub, and they've brought up all the names of all the girls and all the things that he's searched, and they're displaying it on at the wedding. Like, they actually got they messaged all these girls and said, "Hey, can you record a special video for us for the wedding?" It's great. If you haven't seen it, you've got to go and see it. It's brilliant.
That.
Nice.
That's like that wedding singer speech on steroids.
Yeah.
No, it's hilarious. If you get a chance, go and check that on YouTube. It's great. Speaking of checking things out on YouTube, if you've got the NBN, that's not actually always possible because the NBN's slower than other connections. But there's a couple of stories here that kind of go hand in hand. There's a study out. A survey has shown that 40% of consumers would be willing to pay $12 extra per month for better broadband, according to NBN Co. CEO Bill Morrow, who hopes uptake will increase beyond 25 meg per second. And basically, they've just launched the NBN's corporate plan for 2017. Got launched this morning, actually. Morrow said that NBN's current speed offerings, which show the most uptake, is 25.5 is the average. The commitment came in response to a question from My Republic, which said criticising the 25 meg uptake and pushing the topic of being able to offer 1 gigabit speed. And we know how that sort of all pans out. But the interesting thing is, the other thing that came out of that is the NBN announced they're reducing their peak funding. They've decreased the total number of premises in Australia by 200,000, and they've reduced their peak funding by 251 billion. So they've cut costs, but they've cut costs by cutting
people.
the internet to people. So
Then they can say, look, we've done 50% of the people that are on our list because we've got 50% less people now.
So basically, according to the NBN, the lower peak funding will cause the hold. The activations profile for fiber to the node and the HFC can be accelerated, and the CAPEX or OPEX, whatever they're calling, which is the mixed technology one, will be lower. So if you've got mixed technology, so if you've currently got ADSL or ADSL2 and there's no fiber running near you anywhere, chances are you're going to be stuck with that. It's going to be called the NBN, but it's just going to be ADSL or ADSL2. If you're somewhere where there's fiber to the node or fiber to the premises, that will continue to go ahead. So, yeah, so have fun with that.
And if you're having problems
I find it disgusting. Like, I'm uploading copious amounts of video now as I've entered this brave new world of webcasting, and I don't have a problem, like with my internet. I get 140 and it always breaks over 100 and gets somewhere near 40 upload. Yep. The amount of residences like in Sydney and Melbourne Sydney and Brisbane that I'm dealing with to handle this video, still stuck on really horrible ADSL 1 speeds in the capital cities. And we've got it out in these regional areas. It is disgusting.
Yeah, I'm in a regional
area. I did see a positive. Yeah. I did see a really positive story today. Actually, there was it only ever happened once, but a local business owner, I can't name him. He's a corporate customer, and he got his 4G one. He did a speed test on the first time. He got 500 down.
Nice.
Once. He's never been able to replicate it. I'm thinking he must have accidentally got onto one of the 5G test nodes or something like that that one time. But he'd never seen anything like it, like half a gigabyte per second.
His head exploded. What's yours, Mr.
Well,
T?
mine now.
16.9. Well done.
That's my 4100. I'm paying for 4100. I'm currently receiving 16.9, and that's good. It's not normally that high. It's normally about
Have a look and see if they can get onto Red Train. It's another one that's rolling out in competition with NBN. It's a private one that actually has no congestion compared to the NBN.
That's because no one knows about it.
Fiber and stuff. Yep, the RSP, I should say, can put you onto Red Train.
Okay.
Have a look at redtrain.com.au.
I normally get about 9.4.
Yep.
So this is actually really high for me.
That is just, and you're on NBN.
Yeah. I'm on that mixed technology.
Lucky you.
It's very mixed.
Yeah.
So mixed it hardly works.
The one win, I mean, like the amount of, I shouldn't say how I download movies, but like when you're doing that sort of thing, like it doesn't really matter if you've already got, like, if you had 25 down, it makes really no difference at the end of the day. But upload, you can never get good upload on ADSL2, and it's
that's why Glenn hates me, because when I do these shows and I upload it in 2 minutes, he's like, it takes me an hour and a half to upload 720p. I said I did 1080p in 2 minutes upload to YouTube. No, I'm not talking to you ever again.
How do I screen share?
Unless you're set up for it, you can't. You can click screen share on the bottom of the Zoom app.
There's a big green app.
Red Train. Just say Red Train.
Yeah.
That's.
It apparently is only available.
It started out in Victoria. It should be getting rolled out in other places.
Yeah, according to their rollouts, it's only available in Victoria. So what are you on? 7630. Yeah, that's fine.
That's while we're on the video call, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, they haven't updated their rollout map yet.
Fingers crossed, come to an area near you.
Yeah, it doesn't actually say. It just says anywhere where there's fibre to the home, apparently they'll roll out, which isn't this area because it's not here.
I saw there's something about news today that a lot of people who have fibre to the node are ringing up to request change to fibre to the home upgrade.
Well, yeah, I mean, you might have... But then again, if you're getting relatively fast speed, it's not going to make any difference because it's capped. That'll change once, say, eventually in 10 years' time when everyone else is on terabit, gigabit. But, like it at the moment, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. If you're already getting reasonable speed and you're within I mean, the thing is, like, my speeds are crap, but I'm also right next to the exchange, and the exchange is 100 meters over there.
Yep.
So it's not. Even if I had fiber to my premises, it wouldn't help because the backbone of the exchange can't handle it.
Oh, that's your problem.
You know, they would need to run a backbone from here to Ipswich, which they're not going to do because we're a rural town. You know, so having fiber to the premises or even fiber to the node would be irrelevant because the backbone of the exchange isn't going to help.
Yep. That's where your congestion is, bottleneck.
Yeah.
Rage.
Well, you look at like Evans Head. The fastest Evans Head is basically ADSL 1 speed. So effectively, they get my in-laws get about half a meg down and about 256k up. That's basically the internet they get all the time, and that's now been reclassified as NBN because that's now acceptable.
To who?
Well, to the NBN.
Yeah. Not to them, to the NBN code.
And then on the holidays when the caravan parks fill up and all the hotels fill up, that speed drops even further.
Did you say you could get 56k? Yeah, that's NBN now.
Yeah. Well, I actually did a test.
Just got that. I've got that tone. Actually, I was about to put as my ringtone the dial-up.
The dial-up, yeah.
The dial-up. That's going to be my ringtone.
Yeah, the funny thing is, last Christmas, the ISP provider they're with actually does provide a Megapop backup service.
Yep.
And because they've got an old Dell workstation or something, it happens to have an internal modem in it. And last Christmas, we could not connect to the ADSL, just refused to connect. So I pulled the filter and I plugged the modem in and I rang the Megapop.
Yep.
I actually got faster speeds on the Megapop connection than I could get through the ADSL.
Wow, that shit, man.
What's Megapop? What's Megapop?
Megapop's basically it's like a local. It's like a 1-800 number or a 1-300 number, and it works throughout the country. So it takes you to your local exchange or to your nearest exchange. It's dial up effectively, but it's the old way they did dial up, make dial up portable. Because if you're locked into if you're locked into say your local dial up, say it was you would dial their phone number to get to their modem bank to dial in, but that was fine if you were in the same town. But if you threw it on your laptop and drove the other side of the country, then
another number,
you've got So they bought out the Megapop, which basically makes it activate throughout the country. So it's
funny. I had a friend on. I can't remember if it was IINet or Internode back in the day, and he lived out in St Leonard's, and the dongle, like the wireless dongle that they gave him. This is in 2000, up to about 2010, 2011. Yep. It was operating off the CDMA network that the military had, bought out after CDMA went dead. Many years after, his was the only one. This one ISP used the CDMA network for his. Yeah, and I remember I was
rural. Well, they did. They rolled out. They left a lot of the rural CDMA stuff active for a longer period of time.
That was in the city. I had one of those.
Yeah,
I tried it where I was. But I couldn't get the signal.
I was working for Telstra, and we were telling all the customers, basically the reason that this was the Telstra pitch at the time that we were told. I don't know if it was officially Telstra. It was what we were told at our dealership to say. That the reason we're shifting over to NextG was because CDMA could not offer data.
Yeah.
Now we just have to look at the United States and the fact that half the iPhone sold as AT&T or whatever it is over there uses exclusively.
They're half right. CDMA can't do data and voice simultaneously.
Yeah.
So if you're browsing the net or doing an email, you'll never get a phone call. And if you're on the phone call, you can't do any data stuff. So they're kind of right. And without putting two chips in the phone, you can't access dual service. But CDMA by far was, one, it was more secure, but it had the range on it was amazing. Especially for rural, the towers are only running at a lower wattage and had far superior coverage.
Yeah. I did look for it with that changeover period again, like analog to digital. Like it was just that far superior voice service over analog for years until
analog. The biggest problem with analog, and part of the reason they ditched it, and I kind of get it, it's because it was the old way of doing things. It required a lot of power to transmit from the phone to the tower. which is why your battery in your analog phones only lasted half an hour of talk time. It's not because they were crap. I mean, they weren't great, but they weren't that bad. It was because transmitting over analog takes so much better. If you've got a walkie-talkie and like a 5-watt two-way or something, a handheld Uniden, if you're transmitting, you'll only get half hour, 45 minutes of transmission. If you're receiving, you can receive all day on the same handset. But to transmit just uses a huge amount of power. And that was the biggest problem with analog, security issues aside and blah, 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 blah. But the main reason they wanted to switch was pure power consumption.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I don't know if that's the official story, but that was a lot of the providers. You could tell the phone manufacturers were pushing to get either CDMA or digital, just purely for the fact that they could make the batteries smaller, which means they could put more on the phone to make the phones, more versatile at the time. And
the military bought up analog anyway, so.
Well, I think they always owned it and they leased it out, actually.
Really? Wow.
Well, that's what I heard, but I don't listen to them. I don't know what I'm talking about.
We're just going to have incredible show notes after this. Yeah.
That's why we said nothing that Will says is
this
endorsed
episode's
by
going
anyone.
to Snopes.com. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So speaking of weird things, Westpac Little Ripper drones to patrol beaches in Queensland. So if you don't know what a Little Ripper drone is, it's a drone that looks like a helicopter, which is based on the Westpac helicopter, which is cool because, hey, reasons. But basically, they're using drones in like at the moment. Say you've got massive beach like Bondi Beach, for example. You've got 6 lifesavers or something for that entire beachfront. Like, it's a huge area to patrol. Yes, they're only supposed to patrol between the flags. In reality, that doesn't happen. They patrol the entire beach. So instead of having 20 people patrolling the beach, they're basically going to give one guy control of this. And there's two. There's the but they're unmanned aerial vehicles, so they'll have a preset flight path. They're not unmanned entirely, though, because there'll still be people monitoring the cameras and stuff like that, see if someone's drowning or needs help or whatever. They're going to have speakers and cameras and microphones so they can communicate, and they'll carry small inflatable, like, boogie boards effectively. So if somebody's struggling, they can drop them, they'll inflate, and people can get out of trouble. So,
and missiles for sharks, like.
Well, if they're drowning, you can't save them. You just shoot the people.
Yeah. All they need to do is just drop the inflatable boogie board down their gullet and inflate it. There's floating shark. But it's basically, so it's designed to back up it's not designed to replace the lifeguards. It's designed to back them up and help support them. It's ironically, Australia's got 365 life-saving clubs, which is kind of an interesting number to have. But they
wait one day a year.
Yeah, exactly. But so the thing is, this will be running 24/7, regardless of whether there doesn't need to be lifeguards on duty for these to be controlled remotely.
So we should probably stop dumping bodies in the ocean.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, stop gang hook fishing for mullet and stuff like that. So
I saw they also got some drones that are patrolling the beaches, can identify sharks and message back and notify you. They can tell the difference between sharks and dolphin. And
they put they have a.
The moment one nation starts supporting them, we know what they're really looking for.
They have IR cameras and they have lidar, so they can bounce light signals and get a virtual picture plus the IR, which is going to show a shark. Being cold-blooded, it's going to show a shark up relatively. If it's near the surface, it'll show up fairly easily. And then that gets all those pictures get sent back to a base station. The person then either flies in closer and has a look, or they can identify it, whatever, and they can choose to send off the shark alarm, or So it's going to be good. It's going.
Watch out, sharks!
So it's going to really de-stress, especially in the Christmas period. If you've ever seen Bondi Rescue on TV, just to look at the amount of people that's packed into that area at Christmas is absolutely insane. So this is really it's also going to help in the situation, for example, a purse snatcher or a child abduction or something like that. They're going to not have to rely on foot pursuit to get these people. They'll actually have an eye in the sky to track them at least long enough for the police or somebody else to get there to take over.
Way cool.
But this brings in an interesting thing that Queensland now has a drone strategy consultant. The state government has published a consultation paper on the future of drone technology in Queensland. None for anybody ever. That's it. Shut it down right now. So basically, it's the government wants to take drone technology to the next level and to see Queensland become a world leader in drone investment. And of course, Palaszczuk said that, so she drones on enough as it is. But yeah,
Queen
so
of
the
drones.
exactly. Our whole government drone strategy, well, will be the first of its kind in Australia. So basically, they're making it now so that it's going to be different with UAVs. So drones is the most hideous term you could possibly use in most situations. We're either talking things like quadcopters or multi-blade copters or manned, controlled, whether it be via a headset or whether it be via a camera on the controller, or whether it be visual. Most of what we're talking about is actually controlled ones, because UAVs, which is the unmanned ones, you can only fly UAVs with a license, and that's across the board. So we're not talking drones, which is what technically a drone is. It's an unmanned, uncontrolled, unpiloted. It's all controlled by a computer. Whereas what we're talking here is the quadcopter style, still piloted by a person sort of deal. But effectively what they're doing is, with some exceptions like flying them over airports and probably not allowed to fly it into Parliament House, I don't know. But basically they're saying that they're going to really, well, there'll be no video footage of it anyway, so it won't matter. So they're basically saying
there'll be 86 cameras, but not a single shot. Yeah.
That's it.
Where have we heard that?
They're basically going to relax, because at the moment, like, if I was to take, I actually have a quadcopter sitting up in that box up there. Cam loves it, but technically for me to fly that above 20...
once this, drone consortium makes them illegal, you just pointed out exactly where they can find it.
No, it's the other way around. They're actually relaxing the restrictions, because at the moment I can't fly that legally above 20 meters high without getting approval from the CSA? No, whatever the
CASA.
Is it CASA? Yeah. Anyway, whoever it is, without getting permission from them saying yes, there's no airplane's going to fly 20 meters above your house. You go for it. Also, here being near Ambley, we're not that far from Ambley Air Base, so there's other restrictions imposed by, you're not allowed to fly within X distance of the airbase and stuff like that. Which I get that. I don't want my drone crashing a cruise liner because I've just had it suck through the engine. I understand that.
Drone, a waste of money.
Yeah, exactly. It's a perfectly good waste of a drone. And then I'll have a control that I don't have a drone for.
Yeah.
But it's going to be good, because they're going to make
a viral YouTube video. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. But they're going to relax a lot of the things now. So basically means if I buy a drone, I can fly it within visual range.
Where does all this faith in government come from, Will?
This is what this whole thing's talking about. This is what they're supposedly doing.
Yep, you need to listen to George Carlin, brother. Anyway, the moment you start legislating anything like this, I think we're,
Well, but see, this is the thing.
Problems they'd have, like, there'd be a bushfire, and there's like 6 drones flying around filming the bushfire, and the planes come in to try and put out the bushfire, and they can't go anywhere because these drones are there that they're going to crash into.
That's actually part of the problem.
They had to legislate it.
Well, the problem is, though, what they just blanket legislated, and that was what pissed everyone off, because effectively you can't do anything like, even if you can actually make a paper airplane fly illegally if it's a good enough paper airplane. You can put it into situations where it is now technically illegal to fly that paper airplane. Because of the way the legislation was rushed and written, they really cocked it up. The idea with this is to go back and revise it. And they've already revised some of it. So for the Agricultural Chemicals Distribution Control Act, blah, 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 basically means now that farmers can use drones to spray their crops.
Yep.
Instead of having to hire a giant crop spraying plane, they can actually do that with drones, which they previously couldn't. It was illegal for them to do that, but now they can. So they are actually slowly repairing some of the damage they did when they put these blanket laws in place. So whether or not it gets to the point where I can go down to the park and fly it without being arrested, I don't know. But I'm hoping that's what it sort of
Unless
gets to.
you're
Because
Pauline Hanson. She was flying a drone
that was
in between
funny.
buildings and stuff. Some people
was right. She didn't break any laws. When you look at the criteria for what she was and wasn't allowed to do, there was no laws in which were breached. It's true. You look at all and that's the and so
I'm
this
just
is
having
what
the
this
Burka
is.
flash, like the Senate Burka flash
Yeah.
in my head. Now you're talking
No,
about
I know, but the thing is, there are lots of laws in place, but there's also lots of places you can fly them. And where she flew them was one of the places you can fly them. So she wasn't breaking any laws, and the only privacy she breached was her own because it was looking in her window where she was flying it. So it's like,
There was supposed to be a lot of people who had to buy licenses to fly in certain places, and now they're gonna. Do they get refunded or?
Well, no, because a lot of those were like businessmen, for example, business people like real estates who fly drones above property to aerial shot properties and stuff like that.
Yep.
In the old days, a van would pull up out the front with a massive, big 40 or 50 long meter long retractable pole that would have a camera on top.
Yep.
They'd park out the front and they'd take a photo that way, which they still use in certain no-fly zones, like near airports, for example. But now a lot of commercial contractors still need licenses to fly. Yep. So that's not going to change. This is only going to change the laws for the hobbyist or the enthusiast and some of the, as I said, like farmers, for example. So some industries, if you want to deliver pizzas, you're still going to need to have a license because that's going to be unmanned and that's going to be potential breach of privacy. Because if you're flying something with a camera that's capable of identifying who you are to deliver the pizza to you, there's got to be some pretty hefty restrictions in place to allow that because you're not the government. So I
was talking to a real estate agent in Melbourne and I was like, do you use drones to take photos of the places you're putting on there? They're like, no, not since one of the other real estate agents in town did that, and they put a huge blown up poster out the front of their shop, and the next door neighbour was doing nude sunbathing in the backyard and got into the photo. She didn't know, but all of her friends were like, wow, have you seen that photo of you out the front of the real estate agent? Oh my God.
Oh no.
Why has this house got so many viewings? I don't understand.
That's one way to do
it. But I mean, it's another step in that direction. I mean, look at satellite imaging. Satellite imaging, even on Google Maps now, is to the point where you can identify a fair bit about somebody's property just by using Google Maps. And that's really restricted in its image capacity. Like, they really turned down the ability of that. The actual ability of that is far superior to that. And the same sort of thing with a drone. If you have a high-powered camera, the amount of identifiable data you can take from a long distance is pretty nuts, which is, I understand that is something they're trying to alleviate. But as you said before, an emergency situation where there's a bushfire or where there's an evacuation or where there's some sort of, situation that you think there's a bushfire, okay, you don't think a drone sitting over top's doing anything, which one's probably not. 4 or 5 is probably being a pain, but let's say there's 2 there and something happens, and some of these things that carry the big digital SLR cameras have 8 rotors on them spinning at several, tens of thousands of RPMs with carbon fiber blades on them and are quite capable of severe injury to somebody if they happen to run into someone. So it's entirely possible that those 2 drones collide or something happens and one crashes and knocks out a firefighter, for example. I mean, I know it's a little bit of a stretch, but it is something that you do have to think about.
I get it. The whole thing is with the heebie-jeebies, like Amazon, buying into this and wanting to deliver packages with drones and pizza companies.
Domino's wanting to do it.
It just that day where, you just have this like machine Robocop rock up at your door and deliver something, and then,
get served a warrant pizza, you have 20 seconds to comply.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Eat your crust. I'll be checking.
I was here within 5 minutes.
That's right.
Oh, you said 5 minutes or it's free now.
Oh, yeah. It's still, I don't know what it is, but it gives me the heebie-jeebies. It really does.
And just in case you're wondering, see, I wasn't lying. I do have
there we
go.
go.
Although the box makes it look really impressive because when you actually open it up, it's not.
Little fella.
It's one of those
little tacker.
$60 supercharged ones with the camera that has the ability to record, the general idea of what's happening around you.
No 4K for you?
No 4K for you.
I'm lucky if it's 360p.
Yeah.
On the upside, though, recording it does shorten the flight time from 11 minutes to 4 minutes when you're using the camera. So, you
don't want it to be too far away.
It was interesting. I hadn't realized. You don't think a camera uses a lot of power. I had 11 minutes flight time. I thought, okay, I'm going to get 9 or 10 minutes. I put the drone up. I hit record. I flew around the park, and it auto landed because it ran out of power. I'm like,
Wow.
okay.
I've thought about getting one, but I think the maximum I saw on affordable ones is like 15 minutes recording, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Oh, you can record for longer, just don't fly.
Yeah.
You can record,
put it on
not
a
fly,
stick.
or not fly and record.
Stick, Drone on the selfie stick.
Although, I did figure out with this. So this is a super cheap one, so it was all right. It was doesn't say what the image. Apparently, it's 720p. At 720p, if you put like overlay 2 images
at 2 frames per second.
Where's the camera? Is the camera even still in here? No. Oh no, the camera's on the bottom of it. The camera itself's like one of those little security surveillance little pinhole cameras.
Ones they put in pens and watches.
Yeah, that's exactly the same as one of those with a big plastic box around it.
My other problem is I didn't think that I would do anything particularly interesting enough for anyone to want to watch whatever I was doing. That I went down to the beach, flew around a bit. Everybody's done that. What's something different and new?
With the small ones, if there's even the slightest breath of wind, don't even bother trying. It literally just flops over upside down. Like, that'd be
cool to have one of those ones that follow you around and sort of hovers behind you, like
some of those. Well, that's what I was going to say. Some of these new drones are absolutely insane. There's actually a guy on YouTube. He was in Morocco, I believe, and he's sitting up on a hilltop. That it starts off with him panning around from his balcony. Goes from the ocean here. The camera pans around, and there's this massive volcano hilltop thing up there. So he goes for a hike up there one day. Takes his drone with him. He's sitting on the hilltop looking through binoculars. He can see his house. He goes, So he gets his drone out, sets his drone up, sets it up, and he's flying, and he's got it set on this trajectory. He used GPS maps to geolocate his house. So this thing's auto-flying from this hilltop all the way towards his house, and he's watching it on the display, getting closer and closer. And it gets to because you've got to go across where his balcony was. It was on the waterfront side, so he had to go over the water to swing back around to come in the front. And he got out over the water, and the battery indicators hit 0%.
I think you did video of that last show.
It's coming down, and it's coming down, but it's still coming down towards the balcony, and it's just getting lower and lower and lower as it's coming in, and literally it just scrapes over the hand railing as it lands on the balcony. But he was 5 miles or something in a straight line, and this is just an off-the-shelf, not super expensive drone.
Yep.
It's pretty impressive, but it makes you think, man, if you actually throw some money at these things, what are they capable of?
You've seen that one that the guy's got that pulls him along as he's surfing along behind it.
Really?
Yeah. That's one of the big. That's a big DSLR rig, big 8-blade thing or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or big 6-blade thing.
Hook up a rope to it, and he just holds onto it and it pulls him along as it flies.
Yeah. It's almost an aircraft at that point. I don't know how much quadcopter. It's more helicopter. But there's I think once it starts lifting people, it goes from radio control, or it goes from sort of
drone,
toy to vehicle. There's a limit there.
That's how I get to work every day
with my drone.
Who cares about traffic?
Yeah, well, in a straight line, you'd get there in half the time too.
Yeah.
Until all the drones in the world reach singularity, and we're in real trouble.
Well, not really, because we're down here. They're up there.
The world.
Improve the world.
It can't get much worse than what we're doing to it.
There'd be a constant breeze.
Yeah.
Constant breeze.
It'd power all of those. Whoa.
Cool. That was an interesting trick.
You guys just swapped over.
don't hit the stop video button.
Luke's already done it 3 times. So.
But yeah, no, it's good to see. And I think my point of the story was back. I think I had a point. It's good to see that as much as we bag at the government, well, at least we should be, and as much as we hate them, or at least we should, they do occasionally actually think about something, and that's a case of them actually addressing a problem. Whether it's because one of their kids said, "Hey, I want to fly my drone, and you won't let me," but the fact of the matter is they're actually retrospectively addressing a problem, which doesn't happen very often. And okay, it's a minor thing, and realistically, it's going to have no bearing on anything, and probably not going to affect anyone anyway. And it's more.
That's the perfect. Have you not seen Yes Minister? That's
what I was going to say. That's
right.
exactly what I was about to say. It's going to take your mind off the fact that we're about to have World War III. That's irrelevant. We can fly drones in public now.
At least we get to see the mushroom cloud from 40 feet.
That's it. Exactly. You'll be able to look at it coming from a further distance. Yeah.
That's right.
As you get destroyed.
Well, yeah. Look, I don't know. The whole drone thing, it just, the whole zzz, the whole thing just gives me the heebie-jeebies. I mean, one day we'll probably just all be using them, but then again,
they definitely have their place, and
absolutely. Like as somebody who would love to like be breaking stories, like that. I know it sounds really sick, but something like that siege that happened a couple of years ago, and that drone got taken down. I'm thinking, red hot, just give them a medal for trying to get that in there.
You have, say, a bridge collapse or a tunnel collapse or a building collapse. A drone's going to be able to most likely get in there and navigate and get through it,
or
regardless of whether it's
what Kim Kardashian's doing in her backyard.
You don't need a drone. You just need to watch TV. But regardless of whether it's a rescue drone, a security drone, a media drone, they definitely have their place. They're definitely going to make some things better. Yes, they're going to complicate some things and make some things worse. Like absolutely every piece of technology we have today, used correctly, it's going to be either fun or beneficial or potentially both. Used incorrectly, it's going to destroy the world. I mean, that's just the way technology is.
The Internet of Things. That's right.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, look, a couple of scientists decided it was a great idea to build a big vacuum chamber and run atoms into each other. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, with a big statue of Shiva out the front to destroy it, just for good measure.
That's not a statue. They're actually trying to reanimate it.
Yeah.
What's your dance?
The plane. But on a slightly more serious note, slightly like
could that be more serious?
As you guys know, fan of the Raspberry Pi, always have them used for something. There's one sitting right there, and it's actually hooked up to a set of goggles, which is cool. But
hang on. Explain that before you go any further.
It's his monitor.
It's basically Raspberry Pi. You're not a Raspberry Pi. You can use it as a media center.
But what are the goggles?
But all I did was I took a set of dodgy $5 eBay VR goggles and hardwired them into the AV port so that I can use the Bluetooth keyboard. I can throw the goggles on. I can do all the programming and everything I need to do without having to worry about hooking up to a monitor. Is effectively what that's about, which just makes life so much easier.
Oh, it just feels like hackers. I mean, you could be doing IRC on that thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what he does while we do these shows. He's talking to other people in IRC.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't see what the problem is.
They actually look like the Thug Life glasses.
This is Google goggles before Google goggles was a thing.
Zero cool.
So I've been a big fan of the Raspberry Pi since they come out. And there's a few. There's Raspberry Pi, there's Banana Pi, there's Orange Pi, there's AOC. There's a whole heap of these, what they call developer boards or project boards, basically single board chips. You can get everything these days right up to a quad-core Atom, like 2.5 gigahertz with 64 gig of RAM and 64 gig SSD built on that runs Windows 10 out of the box and can be used for video processing for $100. So there's all
every
this.
Every one of them gets you stopped at customs. But yeah,
exactly. But one of the biggest ones is the Raspberry Pi. It's just by the nature of the beast being one of the early adopters, it's one of the largest supported networks. They've just released the new Raspberry, which probably isn't going to interest a lot of people, but the new Raspberry Linux has just been released. If you've been using a Raspberry Pi for a while on Raspberry OS, this is a huge thing because they haven't done they've done intermittent upgrades, but they haven't done a decent upgrade basically since the release of the device. The first device, and we're Raspberry Pi 3 in now. Well, this is a software update, so it basically cleans a lot of the bad, because originally I think the first Raspberry was just a rush job to make it work. So they've really sorted out. They've cleaned it up. They've made it boot quicker. They've added a few things natively now, like VM support and stuff like that. You can shell straight in without having to set stuff up. But it's smaller and it's faster, which when you're running an OS on a low-powered device makes a huge difference. And it's backwards compatible with all the versions. So right from the very first one right through to the new Raspberry Pi, it's fully compatible with all of them. Depending on what you're doing with the device, if you're using it for like a media center or something, chances are you're running Raspbian at some point in there. If you're doing something like a web server or an email server or a Linux box or running as a switch or a hub or something like that, you're probably not. But yeah, Plex server. You're probably just running it directly from the command line. But this also updates that back end as well, which hasn't been updated. So there's a lot of new commands and stuff put in there. So another cool part, it's all free, of course, being Linux based, so you can get all that. I just thought that was interesting because it's something I enjoy doing, and something to be looking forward to. I shall be releasing videos.
I thought it would be cool, and I looked up the ability, but you could get for the Raspberry Pi software that can connect to a webcam, which you could stick out your front door. So when someone presses the doorbell, it can take a shot of them. It can do facial recognition and know who's at the front door, and then you can hook that into Google Speaks and say, William Tompkinson is at the front door. And then say, should I let him in? Yes. Click.
Well, if you connect that, and this is the other reason I was sort of getting this now, with things like with Google Home and with Amazon's
Alexa,
whatever her name is, Alexa, yeah. Things like the Raspberry Pi and these sort of single chip or single board computers are playing huge roles, not only in the Internet of Things now, but in terms of home automation and remote ability to control things that you didn't think you could. Is becoming huge. Like, I did home automation back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and to, for example, set up a room with a projector that dropped down from the ceiling and a screen that would retract up. You're looking at $10,000 in equipment.
Yeah.
The same thing now can be done with a $30 Raspberry Pi. Well, not even. You could use a $7 Raspberry Pi Uno or whatever the tiny one is, and you could use a couple of $30 actuators off eBay, and you'd do it no problems at all. So it's just absolutely amazing now what's possible on almost no budget these days.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's why I find
other applications for Raspberry Pi that, like, I know people using them for everything. Media centers is probably one of the big.
You can use them for
RetroPie.
Yeah, the RetroPie. So your retro arcade games, the MAME encoders, all that sort of stuff.
And like
they actually reckon, rock solid. They reckon it actually makes the best Atari emulator. It's the best chipset they've found for Atari emulation because it's the closest to the original Atari chipset. There's so much stuff you can do. Like, you can literally just search YouTube for Raspberry Pi uses, and you can watch video after video after video and not see the same thing twice.
I will.
I do. And, but you can use them for everything from, as I said, web servers to email servers. You can do things like using them as firewalls and VPNs. You can use them as for open VPNs, file servers. You can run pfSense on them. You can set them up as remote access points. You can run them using, there's this new chip out called an ESP8266, I think, from memory. And it's basically literally a Wi-Fi chip with a control circuit built on that you program the controller, say, here's my network details, and then this chip runs off 3 volts, I think, and it's literally Wi-Fi, and it's got ability to turn devices on and off. So you can literally automate your entire house with about $10 worth of circuitry now.
Cool.
You can do things like multicast TV servers, where every Raspberry Pi each Raspberry Pi is dedicated to one channel. So you can have, if you've got 20 channels, you can have 20 Raspberry Pis, which is nothing when they're the little, you lose little Adafruits or something like that. They're little tiny ones. And it means that you can record simultaneously every channel. You can watch different channels in different rooms, and you can make things like 3D printers and CNC machines with them. You can do things like making RFID readers and stuff like that. You can put them all together and make them into a giant supercomputer if you want to string 20 or 30 of them together. Yeah, big clusters, yeah. So, and if you do it wrong, it's still a cluster.
Yep. I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't say it.
He didn't
so,
say
yeah, there's all this stuff you can do with them. As I said, though, there's things, not just the Raspberry Pi. There's the bananas. There's the Latte. The Latte Panda is one of my favorites because, as I said, it's an actual PC clone. Like, it runs Windows 10 straight out of the box. It's got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all this stuff built on. It's just an amazing. It's $100, and it literally one of the reviewers used it as his video editing and uploading system for a week just to see how powerful it was. He said it was a little bit slow to render the videos, but it happily did 1080 60 frame videos.
Cool. So anybody using them for Hackintosh?
Yeah, there's different variants of them used for not so much the Raspberry Pi, it's the wrong chipset, but a lot of these do get used.
What's the sort of most powerful spec one you've sort of come across, these little things?
See, this is the thing. This is where it gets confusing because, well, the Raspberry Pi 3 is the most powerful Raspberry Pi, but it's not necessarily the most powerful single board computer.
No.
Yeah.
As I said, like there's Latte, L-A-T-T-E, Panda.
Latte Panda.
They're like this particular one here is a quad-core 1.8 gig processor with, this one's the baby one with the 4 gig of RAM and 32 gig MMC, but they do the same one with 4 gig of RAM and 64 gig MMC. And this particular one has got HDMI, it's got USB 3, 2 USB 2s, network port, micro SD port, a power port, a SATA port, plus it's fully Raspberry Pi compatible with the header. It's also got Bluetooth and Wi-Fi built onto the chip. And when you look at the size of this thing,
there's nothing. There's nothing it couldn't really do.
That's how big. That's how big it is. Well, they run Crysis on these at 60 frames a second.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yes. Yeah. So they've also got like Intel embedded, but they're like, I think they're 1 or 2 gig dedicated video cards. Like they're just
but
insane.
Can it run Doom? That's the ultimate one, right?
They run Doom, yeah. Well, they run Minecraft.
Yep.
At about 45 frames a second. And you think, yeah, okay, great. But if you've ever played Minecraft, you realize how Java intense and how really badly encoded this game is.
My daughter's laptop has trouble, and it's 8 gig of RAM and a Core i7 actually.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. Like, everyone bags Minecraft, but if you want something to test a system out, it really does test the system out. But you know what I mean? So there's just so much stuff now. There's the Nano PC, there's the Asus Tinkerer board, there's all these
Intel baboons.
Yeah. There's a couple on Kickstarter. So to say what's the best, that's really an impossible question. The question is, what are you using it for? What's going to be best suited for your application? And what are you comfortable with? If you're not comfortable with Linux and you're not comfortable with Linux commands and having to install Linux components and set up stuff, the Raspberry Pi is not going to be any good for you. Actually, most of them aren't. You're going to be really restricted. You're going to have to use this one, the Panda. You're going to have to use like the LeeMaker or the Acer one because they're Windows-based, but most aren't Windows-based. So it really, and like the Arduino, however you pronounce it. I've been listening to too many American podcasts. I say
Arduino,
so I get confused. Yeah, so I confuse myself when I speak Australian.
Iguana.
But like it's also an amazingly incredible board, but it's a single process board. It does one job perfectly.
Yeah.
So if you want something that's time critical, a lot of them use them for 3D printers and things like that because they control stepper motors absolutely 100% perfect every time.
Yeah.
Whereas things like the Pi and all these other ones are multi-process. So it really comes down to what you're doing, what you want to achieve. But as I said, like,
I think for a great DOS emulator, like DOS emulation system, that would be.
Well, Pi works really well. DOSBox is native to the Pis. Basically, anything that would run on DOS, even the latest stuff, runs perfectly fine, even on the older Pis.
I just set up my retro computer from a Raspberry Pi.
And a lot of the guys are actually installing Windows 3.1 installs perfectly, and people have actually managed to get Windows 7 installed on a Pi now.
Cool. An Amiga emulation, like are they using
be able to do that. PlayStation, Xbox,
PlayStation. Yeah. If I could get a perfectly working Amiga 500 off a Raspberry Pi, I'd be so happy.
Should be able to.
Yeah, they do it no worries at all. Yeah. But this is the thing. Like, it's just insane now. As I said, like you got these insanely tiny Wi-Fi cards and Bluetooth cards and like this. There's another one called the Onion Amiga, which is another like this is the Onion. It's another device, and it's another fully contained board. It's got micro SD, it's got Wi-Fi, it's got Bluetooth, it's got all this stuff built onto it. And I mean, look at the size of it.
It's tiny.
It's ridiculous. So.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening to the Aussie Tech Head Show broadcast weekly.
Aussie Tech Head / Old Fart Geeks / Android podcast.
Can we just release this as an Old Fart Geeks episode? I'm sure we can.
May as well.
Might as well, yeah.
We can be
I don't want no drones. Give me my Amiga 500.
Before you do the outro, I do want to just say to people, we are looking at restructuring Old Fart Geeks, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Things that got you inspired into technology, whether it was a movie, whether it was a book you read, whether it was a TV show. You can either send it through ATH or you can send it to us at the Old Fart Geeks. But I'd just love to hear some feedback on what it was that you guys love about technology, and was there a turning point? Was it a particular movie like Brainstorm or Virtuosity or Lawnmower Man
Hackers.
or Hackers, or was there this turning point?
Or was that Zero
or was it just?
Ew,
did it just happen? So I'd just be curious to get a list of that sort of stuff, because that's sort of where we want to do some Old Fart Geek stuff. We want to take it to that sort of that nostalgia. This is the movie. This is what happened. This is how it pans out, sort of deal. So, yeah, if you guys have got any suggestions for that, or what triggered it for you guys, would love to hear it.
Do you want to play a game?
Sorry, Dave, I can't do that.
You can find us at facebook.com/Aussie Tech Heads, twitter.com/Aussie Tech Heads, and youtube.com Aussie Tech Heads. Email us glenn@aussietechheads.com.au, Will or Warlock or Eric at aussietechheads.com.au. You can hear the Aussie Tech Heads on aussietechradio.com, 24/7 back-to-back play of some of the best tech-related shows, podcasts from around Australia and New Zealand. New shows added each Friday. Thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and like the channel, and leave us a little comment about how much you like Will. And we'll see you again next week, hopefully.
Or just leave a thumb down. It's quicker.
Bye.
Bye.